Today, we're tackling a huge topic: how artificial intelligence is jumping from the server room straight into the boardroom. And look, it's creating a whole new set of rules for personal liability. If you're a director or an officer, this isn't just about cool new tech anymore. It's about protecting your career and, frankly, your personal assets.
Okay, before we dive in, we have to get something really important out of the way. This is purely for informational purposes. It is absolutely not legal advice. The whole world of AI law is changing by the day, so please talk to your own corporate counsel to figure out how this all applies to your specific world. 473.5%. Let that number sink in for a second. That's the insane increase in Fortune 500 companies that are now flagging AI as a major business risk in their official filings. What everyone saw as just a competitive advantage yesterday is now officially a material risk factor.
Right, so corporate risk is one thing, but this whole shift has some pretty serious personal implications. We're not just talking about the company getting a fine or some bad PR anymore. We're talking about risks that can hit your personal finances and your professional reputation hard.
So first, we have to just accept the new reality. The days when AI was some distant technical problem that the IT team handled, well, those days are over. It's now a top-level concern for the C-suite and the board, and the liability that comes with it is getting really, really personal.
So what's actually changing? Well, courts are making it pretty clear that a director's classic responsibilities now cover AI oversight. We're seeing the first wave of shareholder lawsuits aimed right at boards for dropping the ball on AI risk. And you can't just say, "Oh, I didn't understand the technology." That defense is dead. And here's the ticker. This opens the door to you being held personally, financially liable.
So what's the legal backbone for all this personal risk? It all boils down to your fiduciary duty, a classic concept that's getting a major update in a world run by algorithms. These old-school duties now apply directly to AI. First, you've got the duty of care. In the AI era, that means you have to be properly informed. You can't just nod along to a presentation. You have to get educated and ask the hard questions. Then there's the duty of loyalty. This means you have to make sure AI is being used for the company's long-term good, not just for a quick win that could blow up later. And this brings us to a really critical legal idea, the red flag doctrine. Basically, if you see a warning, an internal report about bias, a letter from a regulator, even a bad news story about your AI, you have a legal duty to look into it. Ignoring those red flags is a direct line to being held personally liable, even if you weren't the one who built or deployed the AI.
So if you're supposed to be on the lookout for these red flags, where are they most likely to pop up? Let's break down the 3 biggest AI threats that every single leader needs to have on their radar right now. Think of this as your map to the AI minefield. First up, you've got AI washing, which is just companies exaggerating what their AI can actually do. Second is algorithmic bias, where these systems end up amplifying discrimination. And third, the giant data privacy and security holes that AI can create. These are the zones where we're seeing lawsuits just explode.
Let's make this real. Let's see what happens when an AI rollout goes horribly wrong. We'll start with a city chatbot that was supposed to help small businesses, but, well, it started giving them illegal advice instead.
The chatbot, with total confidence, was telling people to do things that were completely illegal. This wasn't just some tiny bug. It was a total failure of governance that exposed the city to massive liability and kicked off major investigations. It's a perfect and scary example of what happens when you deploy AI without checking your work.
All right, this next case shows how AI can cause real harm, even when everyone has the best intentions. A popular algorithm was built to predict patient health risks so that hospitals could give better care to the people who needed it most. So the algorithm used a shortcut. It looked at past healthcare costs to guess who was sickest. But because of systemic issues, Black patients often had lower costs for the same health problems. The AI learned this bias from the data and made it worse, systematically keeping Black patients from getting the care they needed. It's just a brutal example of how biased data creates discriminatory outcomes and, you guessed it, a ton of lawsuits.
And finally, a case that shows just how much money you can lose with a flawed AI. A major real estate company literally bet their entire business model on an AI algorithm that was supposed to buy and sell homes. Turns out the AI was trained on old data that was useless in a crazy, fast-changing housing market. It started making massive pricing mistakes, leading to a $300 million loss. The fallout was swift. Layoffs, a stock price in free fall, and shareholder lawsuits aimed squarely at the board for failing to oversee the AI model. Okay, after hearing about all those risks, the path forward starts to look a lot clearer. The answer is building robust governance, not as a bunch of rules to slow things down, but as a shield that protects the company and protects you personally.
And let's be really clear here. The solution is not to just run away from AI. That's a losing game. The real answer is to build genuine AI literacy in the C-suite and in the boardroom. You just can't oversee something effectively if you don't really understand it.
So how do you build that literacy? It's really about creating a culture of constant learning. First, bring in independent experts who will give you the straight story, not just a sales pitch. Second, play with the tools yourself. Private experimentation is a great way to build intuition. Third, and this is so important, make AI education an ongoing thing, not a one-and-done workshop. The tech moves way too fast for that. And finally, talk to your peers. Learn from what other boards are doing and from their mistakes. It's about developing the wisdom to govern this stuff, not just checking a box. This quote really just hits the nail on the head. The law is becoming clear. Your duty of care as a leader now legally demands that you become literate in AI. You either have to learn enough to make smart decisions on your own, or you have to prove you brought in independent experts who can help you get there.
So the real takeaway here is this. AI risk has officially moved from being a theoretical problem for the future to a real-world problem for today. The lawsuits are happening, the liability is personal, and the stakes have honestly never been higher. So the question you really have to ask yourself now is your governance ready for this new reality?